This is To the Point with Michael Williams.
Good morning and welcome to the Point. I'm Tory Dunnan in for Michael Williams. This week, Governor Ron DeSantis held his first news conference in nearly a month. It was there he announced an extension of the executive order allowing school districts to offer remote learning. The original executive order was set to expire on December 31st. I spoke with St. Lucie County Superintendent Gent about what this means for students.
We want to thank the governor and we want to thank the Commissioner of Education because the state's Superintendents Association really had a lot of input into this and they listened to us. And so there's a good spirit of collaboration, something I haven't seen really in about 25 years with it. So we're very grateful for that. The funding maintains for the entire year, so that helps us because we were right now a little bit uncertain as to what would happen in the second half of the year. We had saw signs that we were going to be okay, but we weren't sure until we really actually saw the order and heard the governor and commissioner themselves speak. So we're grateful for that. How does it change the second semester? You know, we have already been reaching out to our students, particularly those students that have been underperforming, that are at home doing what we call My School Virtual in St. Lucie County. And so we've been reaching out to them already, but now we'll be required to reach out to all students that are academically deficient or, not doing well in their assessments or have high attendance, absentee rates, those kinds of things. We'll be reaching out to those students, sending letters home next week. And the parents, we're going to try to get them to come back in. And they still have the choice to remain home if they choose to, but we'll start that process next week. And that will affect our enrollments for the second semester.
Do you already have a sense of how many students might be in that group?
We don't know. We've been pretty successful right now reaching out ahead of time to some of our students that have been struggling and to the parents. I recognize that this is an important, it's a choice for parents, and we recognize their fears and anxieties. And yet our schools are very safe right now. We do all of the masks, the social distancing, making sure that we do wellness checks on our students. We don't want them coming in to school sick, and we'll continue to do that. So I don't really I'll have a better idea in about 2 weeks before we go into the winter break, but we anticipate getting some more students back. Right now, we're about 60% in the traditional brick and mortar schools and 40% with the My School Virtual.
There have been a lot of calls, the governor included, for students to head back to brick and mortar. What's your sense on that, or what's your feeling?
Well, I think that there are some kids that thrive in the virtual world, and that's okay. That meets their skill set, and they thrive in that. But what we're concerned about are those students that aren't thriving, those students that are really having some unique challenges. Their grades are going down, and they're really not picking up. There's really no substitute for being in front of that teacher where they're building those relationships. They're being able to go around and actually see the student and work with them. And so for certain students, probably the majority of the students, I think the best avenue for them and the best model is for them to be in front of the teacher. And that's why we're doing such the heavy push to get them back in, particularly as well with our young students, our kindergartners, first and second graders, where you're learning those foundations of reading and literacy and mathematics. And the further they miss and the further they fall behind, the more difficult it is to catch them up. And so that's why there's such an emphasis on trying to get the students back into the school centers and to work with them.
You talked a little bit about how you'll be contacting families for those students who are really noticeably falling behind. There is some concern from some parent groups that it'll force kids back into school, but is it not forcing them? It's a recommendation at this point?
Correct. It's a parent choice. So the parents have the choice. The parents can sign the form and say, no, I want to choose to keep my children at home. And they have that right, that they can do that. And that's fine. It's a parental choice. That choice piece is still in there. We're going to hopefully have conversations with them. We encourage them to call the school principal, to call the school guidance counselor, to let them know what the school actually looks like right now, what's happening in the school center, to go over their grades, to go over their attendance, to talk to them about why we think this might be in their best interest. But the final decision is with the parents, and that's where it should be.
Are you doing anything in particular to keep students at the same level as their peers as far as those who are at home versus those who are taking part in brick and mortar? I mean, I know you mentioned that you feel there is a difference, but how do you bridge that gap?
Well, you have teachers. Our setup here in St. Lucie County is if a teacher is teaching a virtual class, it's all virtual. They're just teaching the children that are at home. It's not a mixed. Some counties have a mix where you have actual students in front of you in the classroom, and then you have a screen where you have students at home. Ours is really set up so that it's one or the other. You're either in front of a group, you either have a live group of kids, or you have a virtual group of students. And so we work with that. And, that's been successful for us, and it's worked for us. It's helped our teachers because there's so much tremendous stress and pressure on our teachers right now with this new learning system, we can call it that, delivery system.
Right. How long, I mean, I know this is sort of a crystal ball type question, but how long do you think remote learning will be a possibility for families?
I think remote learning is here to stay. I think it's an innovation, and it was here before. We've got a program here in St. Lucie County called Mosaic. It's a full-time virtual program, and so students have been actively engaged in that. Students from St. Lucie and Martin County are in that program, and that program has grown. And again, there's a niche. There's certain students that thrive in this environment. And then we have the My School Virtual, which is separate, which is really connected to your school. And the previous question, if you're in front of me, if you're in front of me first period and next period I go online with students, it's really the same curriculum. They should be at the same place. The only difference is you don't have a live person in front of you. It's done virtually.
Another concern that some parents seem to be expressing is they might be remote, but for some of these state exams, they have to go take them in person. How do you ease their fears and concerns about that?
Well, we're working on that right now because the state has made it clear that we will have the state exams in the spring, probably in April and May when those state exams come. And so what we're working on right now is the logistics of what would that look like. How do we get the students to school? What we've done in the past, we have had some exams in the past couple of months where students have come in on Saturdays, similar to what you do for your SAT or ACT test. We try to keep the students separated from those that are in the school center to those that aren't. So those are some of the issues we're working on right now. The good thing is we have plenty of time to work through that to find out exactly, for some schools it could create a greater challenge than other schools, just depending upon the number of kids that are at home. But the state's made it clear that they will have to come back into the building to take those exams.
And I think on last check, you had about almost 200 positive cases in the schools. What steps are you now taking as we're heading into these winter months, where there have been warnings from health officials that things could potentially get worse?
We've had 103 for students as of yesterday, and we've had 76 for our staff members. So right. That's close. That's close. Yeah. And we monitor it daily. We work very close with our health department. I feel very good about where we are. We know there'll be a little bit of bump. We're anticipating that from the Thanksgiving holidays. And, masks are required in our schools. We do the social distancing. And it's worked for us in St. Lucie County. We don't see school to school spread. The majority, I'd say 99% of the cases is where it comes in from the outside, whether it comes through the family, whether it comes, we have them 6-7 hours a day, and there's another, 3/4 of the day where we don't have the students in front of us. So we stress not only in the school center, we can control what happens at school. We can't control when they leave. All we can do is inform the parents and community members, that this is what they really need to be doing, not just in school, but to practice these things, these safety measures at home as well. We have, we have a really well-oiled machine with this. We have our seating charts on the buses and our classrooms. We're able to do the contact tracing. The health department hand in hand. I monitor this every day. We have a team that's just dedicated to that, to looking at the numbers going in and making sure we're doing everything that we can do to keep our children safe. But again, the good news is we're not seeing student-to-student spread. We've quarantined football teams, wrestling teams. There's been no spread. There's been a little bit with adults because they come in closer contact at the school centers. And so we continually remind everybody as what the expectations are. Everyone is required, to go through the protocols each day. And we stress that and take nothing for granted.
All right. And I think this is my last question for you, but now that we know remote learning is continuing into the spring, are you now focused on next fall and what that's going to look like? Or is it we're in a pandemic and this is kind of one step at a time here?
We're always looking out at the horizon. And so, we've already having discussions about what the fall would look like. I think a lot of that's going to rely upon what happens in the country and what happens in the state. With the vaccine coming in, how many people will have the vaccine? We're going to have a much clearer picture probably in May or June as to what the fall would look like. We have to be prepared for any contingency. We're very good in public education of being agile and being able to pivot quickly. And so we're hopeful we can get back to normal. And, in August, that would be the goal, but we're prepared to do whatever we need to do. But we'll have a clearer picture, within the next few months as to what happens statewide and what happens locally and nationally.
Well, thanks so much for your time and for all your hard work this year. To you, the administrators and the teachers, I know it has been a tough year for education among everything else.
Well, it's a challenge, and if I can just say, we want to thank our teachers, our administrators. They're on the front lines. They've done a remarkable job in St. Lucie County, and I'm sure in all of our surrounding counties as well. They're unsung heroes, and we appreciate their efforts as well as all of our staff members. And so we want to continue that for the rest of the year, and then look forward to going into the summer and next year.
All right, still ahead, the U.S. is getting closer to approving a COVID-19 vaccine. Our political analysts join me next to discuss the topic.